India in details.
Mr. Shashi Tharoor, if you ever see this, before you decide to touch it, consider learning what it actually is. Yes, before you ever decide to use the word pigs to mock somebody indirectly, remember, you too, despite all your intellect, have room for improvement. And Mr. Shashi Tharoor, it is not just about this and pigs. It is also about what you might be eating for your breakfast. Today's video is one of the most important ones of my career, as it may well affect how almost every household in India behaves as we explore all these points. So to start with, read these words. I learned long ago never to wrestle with a pig. You get dirty and besides, the pig likes it. In this post, this man, Dr. S.Y. Quraishi, quite confidently mentions that it is a quote from George Bernard Shaw. Not only that, Quraishi also refers to him as the great author. So here's my challenge to anyone watching this. George Bernard Shaw was not great. He was a disgrace. Even Shashi Tharoor, as you can read here, posted this back in 2021. In a way, both these people seem to act as if they are so wise, and others don't quite match their so-called high standards. So let's analyze how high their standards actually are. So to start with, can these two men, Quraishi and Tharoor, present the primary source through which we can verify that these words were actually said by George Bernard Shaw? After hours of research, I have not come across a solid citation. On the contrary, I have come across this website that claims this. Point 2. Now let's see how great George Bernard Shaw actually was. As described here, these were his views about Jews. Not only that, as explained here, he was also a eugenics supporter. Yes, eugenics, a cruel idea or scheme that was embraced as a serious scientific movement in multiple Western countries. A well-known Western idea, eugenics was to manipulate human breeding and eliminate people who were labeled as inferior. The father of eugenics was Francis Galton, a cousin of Darwin. Never forget this. The father of eugenics was a man from England, and he was even knighted. Those racist ideas or schemes were well received in the so-called democratic USA, and soon the eugenics capital of the world was established in the USA, the so-called land of the free. Never forget that. And mind you, it was not a fringe movement. As you can read here, in the USA, research was supported by the Rockefeller family and the Carnegie Institution, and the office's director even testified before Congress. Yes, within the USA and European scientific communities, these ideas were widely held and taught in universities. These ideas played an important role in their culture. Never forget that. Point 3. Even this man, John Kellog, emerged as a leader of the eugenics movement. So the next time you buy or consume Kellogg's muesli or cereals, consider learning a bit more about these two brothers. And by the way, learn about John Kellogg's barbaric views on masturbation. Read what he proposed here. After all, as a devout Christian, Kellogg was seen as someone who was just performing his Christian duty to improve humanity for God's kingdom through eugenics and other methods. Point 4. Never forget that it was the American eugenics movement that served as a major inspiration to many in Europe. And yes, it even influenced Adolf Hitler. Yes, as mentioned here, the concept of a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed master Nordic race didn't originate with Hitler. The idea was created in the United States. Read this to learn more about the American contribution to inspiring many uncivilized Christian races and Nazis in Europe. Point 5. The dirty truth about teddy bear. But what can you expect from a country whose 26th president, Teddy Roosevelt, was a white supremacist who supported the eugenics movement himself? Never forget that it was Teddy Roosevelt who wrote this letter about breeding. Read it over here. And please, stop calling this toy a teddy bear. Please learn that the teddy bear was invented in honor of President Theodore Roosevelt. Yes, this toy was invented to honor a white supremacist who didn't just support eugenics, but also hunted animals for fun. Yes, Theodore Roosevelt was a gung-ho hunter all his life. He didn't just shoot bears, he also hunted other animals. Yes, Teddy even killed an innocent cub, but still, many around the world refer to this toy as a teddy bear. But why is it called teddy bear in the first place? Well, it seems it all started with this cartoon. Read all this stuff over here. From today onwards, I am going to give this toy a new name, and I'm going to reintroduce it to my boys. So dear viewers, in the comments, please provide your suggestions as to what name Indians should give this toy. Point 6. Hitler died, but the Western Nazi mentality and the support for eugenics-related ideas didn't completely end in Germany. It was just modified and, in a way, was even exported. Never forget that multiple Western nations provided a shelter or a kind of sanctuary to Nazi criminals. As mentioned here, through the intelligence channels of the USA and Britain, prominent Nazi torturers were found new identities in South America. Many Nazi collaborators and fascists became new citizens of the United States, England, Canada, South Africa, and Australia. Dear Indians, think twice before you give your heart and money to Melbourne University. Learn what Melbourne University actually is. This is a university that honored racists, thieves, and body snatchers. In 2011, they even had the audacity to create a scholarship in Daniel Murnane's name. Want to know who Daniel Murnane was? Well, he was involved in a massacre of indigenous people. By the way, that's the daughter of the man who was involved in the massacre. She's presented as a humble philanthropist. And both the daughter and her father, the man who was involved in a massacre, were churchgoers. Another shocking example of devout Christians. Back to this tweet. I would like to know if at some point in the future Quraishi and Tharoor will regret posting this. I would like to know if Quraishi will ever apologize for using the word great for a man who supported eugenics. And whether he apologizes or not, what does it actually say about the mentality of Quraishi and those who support a man like Quraishi? But then how can you convince or de-radicalize those who believe in the idea of conquest? And Mr. Tharoor, if you have any sense of responsibility, instead of promoting or glorifying the overgrown, Germany-based, politically motivated propagandist whose fake content I have exposed, consider sharing this video to help others learn what you have just learned today. See you again.